from the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast.
Coming up on Ag Day, a post-holiday rally for cotton prices. We'll look at why, plus the latest crop progress report and agribusiness ethanol updates.
But then the infrastructure and the other retailers are going to have to come on board. And once those retailers come on board and then we get thousands and thousands of stations, then you'll see the product fly.
A Brazilian trucker strike is impacting fresh fruit sales in the U.S. and strawberry fields in Texas. A young couple's plan for prosperity.
Ag Day, brought to you by the Chevy Silverado, the most dependable, longest-lasting full-size pickups on the road.
Good morning, I'm Clint Griffiths. A bumpy start to the week following the Memorial Day holiday. Stocks falling triple digits during Tuesday's trading session. However, the bright spot, cotton futures. That market jumping limit up Tuesday with December cotton trading above 90 cents. The first time that contract has hit 90 since 2011. Now, cotton has been on a steady climb since last October following harvest and quality challenges. But since mid-May, the price has spiked nearly 11 cents per pound. Last week, the cotton-adjusted world price hit its highest mark since 2012. Strong demand in the face of steady to lower world production, helping prop up those prices. But weather, it's also an issue. Betsy Gibbon joins us now with more.
A cotton price climb during the heart of planting.
There are currently several factors leading into this buck wild ride that cotton's taken at the moment.
It starts with very dry planting conditions, severe dryness in the southern plains.
We've had probably about 1.25 inches since January.
The North Texas problem is really the crux of the issue here. Forecasts are going to be, continually hot, no rainfall in sight. A lot of folks that we talk to up in that area are simply going to abandon a lot of the dry land production for this year, just given the outlook that it's not going to even make sense to put it in the ground.
Meanwhile, the southeast is now too wet. Arrington says some producers who planted cotton early are done. The growers who are planting late are very behind.
And before Alberto even came in, we had excessive wetness. It has been very wet. It's been raining every day for almost 2 weeks now. So planting is extremely delayed.
An already soggy southeast now receiving more rain.
There's a lot of dry land ground that hasn't been planted, and there's a lot of irrigated dirt that has not been planted. With all this rain we've got here recently, there's probably going to be a lot of replant to come. Don't even know when we'll get back in the field.
Analysts say the price movement is also due to China selling some of its reserves.
We know that China has a large reserve of cotton, and they put out a certain amount that they're going to sell, and the last several auctions have been going very well and have been actually sellouts, which is propping up the idea even further of the great global demand for quality cotton.
As hope and higher prices linger, cotton growers working to plant what may be a valuable commodity. Reporting for Ag Day, I'm Betsy Gibbon.
Thanks, Betsy. USDA releasing fresh cotton planting data late Tuesday following that Memorial Day holiday. Now, these numbers, however, won't include the rain impacts over the past few days. Cotton is 62% planted. That's just 3 points ahead of the 5-year average. Alabama, Georgia, and the Carolinas are behind the 5-year pace. Texas only picking up 4 percentage points last week. It's just past the halfway point. On corn planting, the nation's farmers pouring the heat to field work and are now at 92% planted. That's ahead of the 5-year average of 90%. Notably, Illinois is done. Indiana stands at 95% and Iowa 96% planted. Even Minnesota, which was so far behind, has planted 93% of its corn crop, a 16-point surge in the last week, now ahead of average. 79% of corn is rated good to excellent. That's 14 points better than this time last year. On soybeans, 77% of the crop is now in the ground, 15 points ahead of the 5-year average. Last week, USDA also rolling out its May cattle on feed numbers. As of May 1st, there were more than 11.5 million cattle on the nation's largest feedlots. That's up 5% for the year and the second highest total in the history of the report, dating back to 1996. Nebraska and Texas had the highest totals. Placements at 1.65 million were down 8%. Marketings fell 6%. Meanwhile, President Trump announcing new limits on technology investments and moving forward with $50 billion in tariffs for China. That news ahead of a key trade meeting with Secretary of Commerce Wilbur Ross and Chinese leaders in Beijing at the end of this week. The investment limits and tariffs are part of a broader crackdown aimed at limiting China's ability to acquire U.S. technology. Well, also on that trip, reports that USDA is sending biotech regulatory specialists to try convincing China to speed its regulatory process for seeds and traits. China is known for its typically long and muddled process for approving new GM traits. The May 11th deadline is come and gone as the target for a completed NAFTA agreement. However, the conversations continue. Canadian Foreign Minister Chrystia Freeland traveling to Washington Tuesday to meet with U.S. Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer. Lighthizer is expected to meet with the Mexican Economy Secretary later this week in Paris. Meanwhile, leaders of the U.S., Canada, and Mexico talking by telephone on Friday. The U.S. position on auto parts continuing to be a sticking point. A truck strike has all but paralyzed the Brazilian economy, and it's starting to impact global trade. A protest against rising fuel prices has stymied all forms of transportation in Brazil, including food, fuel, and export work. Bloomberg's reporting that most export terminals in Brazil are running out of soybeans to ship out. The Brazilian meat group ABPA says the strike has cost the country 120,000 tons of potential chicken and pork exports, and some 70 million chickens have now died from a lack of feed. The Brazilian president's threatening to send in troops over the weekend and is trying to negotiate a cut to fuel prices. Vice President Mike Pence is set to visit Brazil today. Cindy Clausen filling in for Mike Hoffman this week. She joins us now to look at crop comments. Good morning, Cindy.
Good morning, Clinton. Bodie Kitchell sent us this picture from central Indiana. He says this is the first time side dressing for the year. He says the weather is hot and he's in need of a rain. He's going to get that today. And William Shackelford in Kentucky shows us corn growth in his area. The drought monitor shows none of the state is in any type of drought. Here's a look at the wind forecast, and you can kind of pick out where the remnants of Tropical Storm Alberto are, and that is moving up through Indiana at this time. The stronger winds tend to be on the east side. Now we're looking at big winds like we were seeing off the coast, but it is going to increase the winds as it heads up to the north. The other place to watch is really out west. Now we're going to really see those winds picking up over the next 24 to 36 hours, as you see, especially over Utah and Nevada and southeastern California. We really start to see some winds there. Coming up in just a few minutes, we'll have a look at your national forecast, but for now, here are some hometown temps.
Your next piece of equipment is on MachineryPete.com. Search equipment from dealerships across the country to find what you're looking for. Only on MachineryPete.com.
We're going to talk demand, and in particular ethanol demand and market potential, when we come back from break. And later, we're off to Texas to see how one young couple is hoping to build a berry business with helping hands from town. In agribusiness on Tuesday, the Department of Justice signing off on conditional approval for Bayer's acquisition of Monsanto, but it's calling for additional divestments to meet antitrust concerns, now with a tally of some $9 billion. The $62.5 billion deal remains on pace to close soon. Bayer and Monsanto continue to operate independently until they complete those necessary divestments, many of which are going to BASF. Bayer says divestments, some of the largest ever required, should be completed in about 2 months. Let's check on market action Tuesday. For that, we head to the floor of the CME in Chicago.
We have not had a boring market here today. We were higher, quite a bit higher in the night session for corn, wheat, and soybeans. But then just before the market opened, we got news that the U.S. is now looking to put the tariffs back on China again on about roughly 50 billion bushels of tech. And this comes after talk that the U.S. and China had come to an agreement to postpone or hold off on tariffs for now. So now China's very surprised that we did it. We're worried about retaliation. So we started the day under quite a bit of pressure in soybeans, while corn and wheat somewhat hung in there. The soybean meal drug soybeans back to positive on the day, as we're worried about some trucker strikes in Brazil, possibly cutting down their crush a little bit and making our meal more desirable. But then as the day's gone on, corn and wheat have really gotten heavy, and now we're posting outside reversal down days. So big bad technical signals happening on the corn and wheat charts. The soybeans are now following suit. This is Ted Seifert of Zaner Ag Hedge coming from the CME floor.
Ethanol continues to be a big part of corn demand, but how's the fuel performing on its own? For that, we hit the road with Tyne Morgan for today's analysis.
Here now with Dave Hudak. He's with Poet, and we're going to talk ethanol. I mean, ethanol's really been in the spotlight this year, Dave, with several meetings at the White House about the renewable fuel standard. Not sure exactly what the final outcome was of those meetings. However, a lot of talk about E15, removing those barriers to see E15 year-round. If that happens, if the administration does support that, is the product there to be able to supply that demand?
The ethanol industry is prepared to supply that. My company alone makes 1.8 billion gallons of ethanol annually in 7 states. There's 200 plus biofuels facilities across the United States. Definitely we can supply it.
So if the administration does approve that, does it happen overnight?
It does not happen overnight. In 29 states, there's 1,300 stations right now that are delivering E15 to the consumer. So certainly those stations will be able to flip the switch and provide E15 year-round. But then the infrastructure and the other retailers are going to have to come on board. And once those retailers come on board and then we get thousands and thousands of stations, then you'll see the product fly.
You know, I know some folks are already supplying E15, some are not, kind of creating confusion for consumers. But ultimately, we all know that the conversation comes down to price. So realistically, how much cheaper is E15?
Depending on where you're at, 10 to 15 cents a gallon, less than regular unleaded.
So do you think consumers will end up buying E15 if it's an option year-round?
Definitely. E15, ethanol is the lowest cost additive, highest performing additive that can be put in gasoline. So as more of it is used, the price definitely will be reflected at the pump. Consumers typically buy on price, so certainly they're going to use it.
Some exciting times for ethanol. Dave, thanks for joining us. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Appreciate
Stay with us. We need to take a quick break, and then we'll be right back with a check of weather here on AgDay.
Welcome back to AgDay. Here with Cindy Clausen, looking at the weather map in Alberta, making his way inland from there and bringing some rain.
Absolutely, and it's going to be some rain in areas that could use some. We've been so hot in parts of the nation's midsection lately, and so we'll be seeing some of that moisture moving up. So here, let's take a look at the map. And here is where Alberta is right now, where we see that L. We've had a few fronts in place, not really doing a whole lot. Well, as Alberta moves up to the north, we're kind of join forces with some of this activity that's already in place. And we're going to see that heavier rain potential, especially in eastern Illinois, Indiana, and into parts of Kentucky, Tennessee, as well, as that moves all the way up to the north. As we head through tonight, we're going to see that continuing to then pull off to the north. So the focus in the next 24 hours is mainly going to be in the eastern half of the country, and especially with the remnants of Alberta. Now, as we head into Thursday, we'll still see some showers and thunderstorms. You get that heating of the day going. We'll start to see more moisture coming in, though, to the northwestern states on the backside of that low pressure system. We start to increase that moisture. Now, over the past 24 hours, it's really been Alberta that's been bringing the most rain, and you could see that expected to move up to the north, but we're going to see some rain in parts of the plain states, the upper Midwest. So a lot of the eastern half of the country, almost 2/3, seeing some rain, and eventually in the Pacific Northwest as well. All right, let's look at temperatures. Still really hot as you get down into Texas, where we're going to be seeing a lot of 90s, but those 90s were all the way up towards the Great Lakes over the past couple of days, and we're going to see some much cooler air in place in some of those locations, those northern areas, while the hot, really hot air stays more to the south. 50s and 60s in the northwest, still a lot of 70s in much of the eastern part of the country for overnight lows for tonight. And then as we head through tomorrow, we're going to be seeing warmer temperatures starting to creep back up to the north again. More 80s and even some 90s in much of the nation's midsection, but the hottest right there in parts of Oklahoma and into Texas. What about the next week or so? We've got that ridge in the eastern part of the country, trough in the west, and as we put it into motion, we start to see that ridge moving to the east, but yet kind of rebuilding as we get into the week. So a lot of the week for most areas will be warm. We'll see some cooler trends towards the end of the weekend, and a little bit in the east we'll see some stormier weather coming in towards the middle part of next week. That's a look at your national forecast. Now let's check out the weather where you live. Sanders, Arizona, plenty of sunshine for you today with a high of 84 degrees. Rensselaer, Indiana, showers and thunderstorms. Heavy rainfall is expected with a high of around 82 degrees. And Madison, Maine, sunny and cooler with a high of 77 degrees.
All right, up next, we're back to Brazil, where the trucker strike is impacting your grocery fruit choices, including papayas, and later, it's Lone Star berry fields forever. We'll take a tour of this Texas couple's dream on In the Country. And news from our partners at the Packer. The trucker strike in Brazil is not only impacting soybeans and sugar, but it's also cutting into papaya profits. The Packer reporting that Florida-based importer HLB Specialties usually receives papaya shipments almost daily. But due to the strike, it has not received shipments of the fruit from Brazil since May 21st. Other fruit importers are sharing similar stories. HLB says numerous truck blockades in 24 of the 27 states in Brazil have made it impossible to reach airports in Sao Paulo and Rio de Janeiro, from which HLB normally ships fruit. Last year's hurricane season is still having an impact on Florida agriculture, and it extends beyond the banged-up citrus industry. The Packer reporting that Florida's avocado volume is expected to be significantly lower this season. Hurricane Irma struck in early September. Much of the attention focused on orange groves, but the storm also socked avocado trees, which are shallow-rooted. The Packer says existing trees that weren't knocked down were still stressed, which impacts harvest volumes. Some estimates put production levels at 50% of normal. A provincial law in British Columbia, Canada, prohibits the sale of U.S. wine on grocery store shelves. Ag Secretary Sonny Perdue says that violates trade rules. The U.S. has requested the World Trade Organization establish a dispute settlement panel to examine the regulation. Perdue says the British Columbia rule discriminates against wine from the U.S. and other imported wines. I don't know that there's much sweeter than a summer strawberry. Up next, we'll meet a Texas couple hoping to pick their way to future profits.
In the Country, sponsored by Kubota. Tractors, hay tools, utility vehicles, mowers, and more. Visit KubotaUSA.com today.
Pick your own strawberry patches are a big draw for urban folks as a way to get into the country. There's nothing like a sweet, juicy strawberry fresh from the plant. On this video provided by the Texas Farm Bureau, we meet a young farming couple who's taking a chance at drawing folks to their strawberry fields forever.
My name is Chris.
And my name is Kylie, and we're strawberry farmers here in Pilot Point, Texas. Chris and I got married 4 years ago, and he is a fourth-generation farmer. Chris started growing some strawberries about 3 years ago.
I kind of come from a long line of farmers, and my cousin, he planted some for his fruit stand, and it kind of sparked an interest in me. So I just started small. First year, I ordered about 1,500 plants. Last year, I planted right around 3,000 plants.
We started selling them just at that produce stand in Boyd, Texas, where his family farm is, and we got a huge response. A lot of people kept asking, can we pick our own strawberries? And I came home from work one day, and Chris was like, I think we should open a pick your own strawberry farm. And I'm like, oh, okay.
When we decided to start the Pick Your Own here in Pilot Point, we planted pretty close to 10,000 plants of strawberries.
We came home in September when we decided we wanted to do this, got the plants in October and planted them, and drove back and forth, moved here in December, and then boom, opened on our 4-year wedding anniversary in April. Honestly, we thought, okay, we're gonna have to find a way to refrigerate these and store these and go places. We thought our hours would be 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. and we're picking out by 10 a.m.
In my wildest dreams, I wouldn't have thought that it would have been this busy. We haven't hardly picked a pound for ourselves to eat this year. So we're just trying to save every last one for the people to come out.
It feels like an adult Easter egg hunt. The hype is there, you're lined up, the start line, you drop it and people just run to the field almost. People are yearning to know where their food is coming from. So this not only provides something fun for you to do, but it's also educational in the sense that you know exactly where that strawberry is coming from and you picked it yourself. There's 80 acres here and it's owned by my grandmother. It's been in her family for over 100 years. We came to her and she was nothing but supportive. She was like, yes, you can do this. You can use the land. You can use my tractor. Both of my parents were teachers and coaches, so we moved all around in Texas. From my side of the family, this land has pretty much been the only place that I can consider really home. This was something for me that it has that same home sense that I could also share with Chris. We could both be out here making our living with our future children running alongside us. I wanted people to get out here and not only enjoy the strawberry picking experience, I wanted to bring flowers in where people could sit and just enjoy the space. Places to sit so grandmothers can bring their grandkids and sit and watch the mother in their field. So I wanted it to be a full family experience of all age and demographics to come and enjoy. It just felt right in the beginning and it feels even more right now at this point. The main question we have is, are you going to expand? So not only is that exciting for us, it gives us a sense of comfort too, that people want to come back and come see us and they have enjoyed their experience. We're excited for what's to come.
And that's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in and spent part of your day with us. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day.